What's poppin', everybody? It's your girl Azalea and welcome back to my channel. What's up, everybody? It has been a while since I've been on YouTube. I did take some personal time off for myself, but I am so excited to be back with fresh new content, new inspiration, and more motivation. For those of you guys who have been following me along for my YouTube journey, thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. And if you guys are new here, thank you again for clicking on this video. And if you guys do like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. Make sure to follow me on all of my social media platforms. And in today's video, we are going to be doing a story time on my first day in prison and my personal experience of getting transferred from a female facility to a male prison. So I was sentenced on August 31st, 2017. I was sentenced to 8 years in the Colorado Department of Corrections. After I got sentenced, I was just so full of emotion and really just anxiety because I didn't know what was going to happen next. But before I even went into the courtroom that day, I already knew what was going to happen. I literally just talked to my lawyer the day before. I knew I was going to get sentenced to 8 years, but it's actually going into the courtroom and signing those papers. It's like a big slap in the face. Boom! I'm really going to prison. So being the first transgender woman to be housed with the females in El Paso County Jail, I just had so many different questions on what was going to happen next and where I was going to go. I started asking a lot of the faculty members, if I was going to go with the females, if I was going to go with the males. I know the mental health supervisor had told me that I was going to go with the females, and a lot of the other higher-ups from the jail were also telling me that I was going to go with the females. They just didn't know, what it would look like. So I started asking the other female inmates, how prison was, what the environment was like, what I'm really going to put myself into. I knew it was going to be different for me. I just didn't know how. So after sentencing, I get back to my pod and I start talking to my homegirl Raquel, telling her how court went. And then I start toilet talking to the guys upstairs, kind of just going on with my day-to-day business that I normally do. And then shift change happens. When shift change happens, I noticed that an officer that I already had a previous confrontation with is getting on shift. A few hours go by, and I need toilet paper. I knock on my door and I'm like, hey bro, can you give me some toilet paper? And he just completely ignores me, And at this point in time, I'm just so full of emotion and I'm so full of anger. And I'm just so fed up with this jail and the treatment that I've gotten here that I just don't care anymore. I start talking to my homegirl Raquel. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this dude. I'm gonna teach him a lesson before I go to prison. We start banging on our doors. Boom, 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 boom. Start flooding our cells. Start throwing stuff out from under the cells. We start getting the guys upstairs to go crazy. They're banging on their doors. They're flooding their tiers. And honestly, it just snowballs and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty much the whole top tier was in a riot. You know what I mean? Not just us, but the guys upstairs were in a riot too. I think after a few hours, the cops finally intervened to try to regain control of the situation. So they started taking a couple girls to SD. SD is a cool down room, whatever. And then they came after me. When they came after me, they had 5, 6 different cops there. They came banging on my door. Boom, 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 boom. Saucito, go to the back of the cell. Saucito, go to the back of the cell. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck no. I ain't going to the back of the cell. I'm crazy. And I'm not going to the back of the cell. I'm putting up a fight. I don't care. So they came in there, bum rushed me. They picked me up off the ground. They all had me in the air. They walked me down the stairs and they took me to medical. When they took me to medical, that is where I spent the remainder of my days in the jail before I got transferred to prison. So fast forward 5 days after the riot, I'm still being housed in medical by myself. And about 4 in the morning, I think, an officer comes to my door. Saucito, pack it up. It's time to go. Now, after the officer walked away, I was just really shocked that I was being transferred so quickly out of the jail when normally it takes a couple weeks to a month to be transferred after getting sentenced. But I don't know if internal affairs was pushing my transfer so quickly because of the riot or what was really going on behind the scenes. So after I finished packing up all of my things, they had an officer come and escort me down to intake. When I had gone to intake, they put me in a cell all by myself again, and I literally sat there for the next 10 hours in the freezing cold. When I say it's freezing cold, I literally mean it's freezing balls. Sitting in intake for God knows how long, the transport staff finally pull up and get ready to put me on the shuttle bus and transfer me to prison. So the transport staff then come knock on my door and ask me a whole bunch of questions just to like verify me, make sure that they're sending the right person to prison and they're not like taking the wrong person. And then they open my door and start to shackle me. So in transit, they take the shackling process really, really seriously. They don't want anybody to escape. They don't want any fights. They just really don't want any extra movement than really what's necessary, because they're just trying to get you from point A to point B without any extra problems. So when they shackle you, they shackle your legs first, then they shackle your hands. They put a black box in between your hands. They put a chain around your waist, and then they attach the black box to your waist, just so you can't like hit, you can't move. You really just can't do anything other than what's really absolutely necessary in the transition process. So after they had finished shackling me, the officers then escorted me to the shuttle bus where another inmate was already being loaded. They then put me in the opposite side of the shuttle bus to separate male and female. So to briefly describe the shuttle, we call it the shuttle because it looks like a spaceship shuttle. The shuttle is made out of all metal. There's a metal divider in between. Each side holds about 9 to 10 people. And then in the front is where the cops sit with their guns. Now through the divider, you can't see anybody else, but you can still like hear and communicate with like the officers or the other inmates that are on the other side of the divider. So the ride to the prison is about 2 hours long. So along the way, me and Tyler, the other inmate that was loaded before me on the shuttle, start talking. At first, me and Tyler were just chopping it up, and then he had said that he had been in prison like 5 or 6 times prior to this time. So I started asking him different questions about how his personal prison experience was and what I should expect my first time in prison. At this point in our ride, we are getting so much closer to DRDC, and I just am so full of anxiety because I still haven't told Tyler that I'm transgender, and I still just don't know whether or not I'm gonna go with the males or the females. So when we finally pulled up to DRDC, I am just so full of nervousness, you guys, that I didn't know what was gonna happen next. I didn't know where I was gonna go. And in that moment, I just felt like I needed an ally. I needed somebody to know who I was. I needed somebody to know my truth. So I finally got the courage and I told Tyler, I am transgender. So after Tyler had learned that I was transgender, he opened up a little bit more and explained to me what I should expect as a transgender woman if they were to house me on a male prison yard. He then went on to say that life behind the walls for the girls is not easy. He said there's been a lot of gang wars, there's been a lot of stabbings, and there's just been a lot of violence in general towards the transgender community and also just the LGBT community as a whole. So the officers finally came back outside and unloaded me from the shuttle and took me inside to intake. So when I had got up to the intake window, there was just so many questions going around, so many speculations. People were asking me what was in between my legs. They were asking me why I came on a female transport. They were asking me why I have this certain name. Like, there was just so many questions being thrown around that they just didn't know what exactly to do with me in that moment. They put me in a holding cell while they made a whole bunch of different calls about what was going to happen to me next. After sitting in the holding cell for about 30 minutes, a male officer came and got me from my holding cell and took me to the male side of the prison where he told me that we were going to have to do a strip search. So during the strip search, I just felt completely uncomfortable, and not just uncomfortable, but objectified. When I went back there, he made me squat and cough multiple times. He made me stand in front of him naked for long periods of time, just looking at my body. Like, I understand that he was trying to like figure out what was in between my legs, but to make me feel so uncomfortable during those moments, it's like I'm a transgender woman getting stripped out by a whole man. He doesn't have breasts. He doesn't have what I feel like inside, you know what I mean? And they just really just didn't have any accommodations for a transgender woman going into prison. After the strip search, the officer then escorted me to the room where all the other male inmates were at that had just gone to DRDC. And when I walked into the room, everybody stopped and stared at me like I was some unicorn that nobody's ever seen before. So during that first encounter with all those other inmates in that room, it just made me really, really nervous on how the rest of the facility was going to react with me coming into the prison. After that, I just tried to shake off the feeling of nervousness. I stayed by myself and just tried to push through the rest of the intake process that all of us had to go through in order to go to our units. So the intake process includes getting your picture taken for your Colorado ID, getting a mental health screening, and also getting your prison ID. A prison ID looks something similar to this, and you need this to get your medication, you need this to get your food, and just so you have identification while you're in and around the prison. So after the intake process was over, they moved all of us into one cell together. There was about 25 to 30 of us until they were ready to move us to our units that we were going to be housed in. So an officer came and got all of us out of the intake unit, and right when we walked outside that door, I saw a huge rec yard. There was just so much grass. It was the first time I've seen grass, the first time I've seen daylight in the last 8 months of my life. We walked to our unit. We all walked to unit number 1 because that's where the new intakes go. And right when I walked into the unit, all these guys just came rushing to the windows, start banging on the windows, boom, 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 boom. They're all screaming at me. They're all yelling at me. And I couldn't even like make out exactly what they were saying. They were all just yelling and yelling and yelling at me. When I walked into my pod, there's 3 different tiers, and from the 3rd tier, the 2nd tier, the 1st tier, everybody just stopped and stared at me and just started screaming at me. Some people were saying, "Hey, what's up, girl?" Some people were saying, "Hey, come talk to me." Some people were calling me a feezy. Some people were just screaming at me, I guess, just to scream at me. I think I just had shocked the whole pod and the whole unit as a whole, being so feminine and so tiny that they haven't seen another one of me in such a long time. Honestly, it was just so much for me to take in. I haven't been around men in the last 8 months of my life. I've been in jail with the women, so I haven't had that interaction. So in that moment, I was just like, oh my God, I need to get to my room. I need to shut my door, and I need to really just take a deep breath and get all of my thoughts together and get ready for dinner. Dinner was about to be coming up, and I'm hungry, and I just don't know how anything is really going to play out. Nobody has really given me much advice on what to really expect with the politics and just with the population as a whole. So I rushed straight to my room. I shut my door. I'm in a cell by myself, so I do not have a roommate. And they yelled over the speaker for everybody to lock down and get ready for chow. So I put on my boots, and I just sat there and waited. I didn't really know exactly how chow really worked. But when they had opened the doors, everybody just went right down to the door. So I kind of just followed everybody. A lot of people were already trying to talk to me. It was just too much. I was just kind of being mean and just like kind of standoffish. I didn't really know what to expect. There wasn't other girls there. I didn't really know who was gay, who wasn't. Like, I just remember Tyler telling me, stay with the transgender, stay with the gay boys, but there's like, I didn't see any. So when we had actually went to the chow room, we had all went in like a single file line. I had got my meal, and then I tried to go sit down. When I had tried to go sit down, people were telling me that I couldn't sit right there. I couldn't sit right here. I couldn't sit right here. I couldn't sit right here. And I just didn't know like where the fuck I was going to sit. In the chow hall, there's politics. Certain people sit with certain people can only sit with these people. And it's just pretty much like fucking high school all over again. It's like either you do it or you don't. So after dinner, I just went back to my unit. I went and locked down. But like all through the night, you guys, I just had different dudes coming up to me. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from? It's like all night. They just didn't get enough of me. They just kept sliding letters under my door, trying to talk to me, trying to interact with me, telling me that this dude said hi, this dude in the other pod said hi, this letter is from this dude, it was just so much. Like when Tyler had told me there's going to be sharks and there's going to be predators, I wasn't expecting there to be so many different people and different individuals just trying to get my attention. And being so young, I just think that, obviously I was flattered by the attention, but it's like, damn, bro, like, give me a break. I'm new. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to expect. And all of this is temporary. Being in DRDC is a very temporary state. You are going to be here, and then you are going to be transferred to your permanent facility that you're going to be doing most of your time in. So I was just all over the place. I was just trying to get my thoughts together. I didn't even have my hour out yet. I didn't even take a shower. I barely ate a meal for the first time all day. It's like people just weren't giving me a break. So after the night had kind of wound it down and everybody was locked down and count time was over, I just laid in my bed, you guys, and thought to myself, like, wow, this is going to be my life for the next 8 years. And honestly, I just didn't know what to expect next. I didn't know what was going to happen when I hit my first prison yard, when I was ready to move on from DRDC. So you guys, this was only my first day in prison. I feel like I have such a unique experience that I want to share with you guys, being that I was one of the first transgender women to actually be recognized as a transgender woman. I was the first trans woman to be put on the board to be moved over to the female population in prison. And also, I was there for the whole movement of trans rights in CDOC. But to go ahead and wrap this video up, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. I put so much time and effort into these videos because I just really want to have a voice. And I just really want to put myself out there and show people what life was really like for me. And, you know, if you guys do like this kind of content,
make sure to hit the subscribe button below.
Make sure to turn on post notifications so you guys do know when I post another video. And make sure to follow me on all of my social media platforms. And also, the next few videos that I will be making will be on my breast augmentation. I'm really excited for it because it is my first gender confirming surgery. And I'm just really excited to share with you guys my experience that I'm going to be having. Medicaid is going to be helping me pay for them. So I'm really excited to see like how the end result will be. And I just really want to, you know, help others out there that are less fortunate like I am. And I'm just really excited for my journey, and I'm really happy to take you guys with me. And until next time, shine bright, my auras.